So today I want to present you my research, urban resilience in Ukrainian housing estates, potential and prospects. The research explores the post-war development of large-scale housing estates in Ukraine, focusing on their transformation and resilience. It's my short biography. I think I won't repeat it. And I start that with each passing year, residents of cities around the world face a growing number of threats: earthquakes, floods, deadly hurricanes, wildfire, uncontrolled migration, critical financial inequality, poverty, and pandemic. And since the beginning of 2022, military threats have also taken on a global character. The war in Ukraine has demonstrated that the balance maintained since the Second World War has been disrupted. The structure of cities as habitats for the majority of the Earth's population requires a comprehensive reassessment and reevaluation, taking into account modern realities and a complex set of critical threats: geopolitical, social, economic, environmental, and digital. The aim of my research was to analyze transformation strategies and the processes of spatial regeneration and neighborhood transformation in large housing estates in Ukraine and Eastern Germany from the 1990s to the 2020s, to assess their current resilience to real global threats and to propose approaches for redefining neighborhoods of 1980s in post-war Ukraine as sustainable and resilient urban areas. The study was based on a detailed examination and comparison of the spatial characteristics of selected neighborhoods within large-scale housing estates from the 1980s in cities across Ukraine and Eastern Germany. This comparative approach made it possible to identify the distinctive spatial features of the morphotype itself and to determine the specific characteristic of Ukrainian neighborhoods that must be taken into account when developing local programs, development plans, and design solutions. And first of all, I want to discuss and show you the methodology of this study. The methodology of this research was based on the understanding of urban resilience as a four-component system, whose key elements are governance, participation, economy, and environment. It was assumed that the characteristic of the built urban environment and the tools of urban planning, including urban design and architecture, are part of the environment component, which also encompasses the diversity of the natural features of urban territories. To identify the spatial characteristics of urban resilience in neighborhoods within large-scale housing estates, a research model was developed comprising three dimensions: the type of threats that negatively impact the neighborhood, spatial resilience characteristics considered primarily within the framework on conventional sectoral planning analysis, and urban resilience characteristics, viewing the neighborhood as a resilient system. The model is designed to be flexible. It allows you the inclusion or exclusion of characteristics within each of three dimensions, making it adaptable to various urban contexts. A resilience framework was developed based on previously published research and adapted to the specific context. And urban resilience characteristics included the following indicators: efficiency, diversity, as the availability of resources with different properties and characteristics, redundancy, the presence of surplus or backup resources, robustness, safety, the ability to provide safe conditions under threat, adaptability, the capacity to adapt and transform to enhance resilience, and flexibility, the ability to quickly respond to threats, inclusivity, ability to protect the most vulnerable segments of the population, innovation, integrity, the availability of external resources capable of compensating for internal shortages, and decentralization, the ability to remain resilient and functional even if central nodes or resources fail. The research consisted of 7 consecutive stages. The first stage and the objective of the first stage were to identify the set of threats that evolved from the 1980s to 2024 in the context of Ukrainian and East German residential neighborhood, taking into account their specific socio-political and economical context. To define the core spatial characteristics of their neighborhoods within the framework of sectoral spatial analysis, and identify key spatial transformation, also within the framework of sectoral spatial analysis, that occurred from 1998 and 1991 to 2024, as well as the nature of these changes. This stage focused on refining the set of current and future threats and assessing how the regional spatial characteristics of residential neighborhoods have changed under their influence. All threats were classified into 5 categories: technological, environmental, geopolitical, social, and economic. Stage 3, to find ideal spatial characteristic. Ideal spatial characteristics for neighborhoods were developed at this stage. This involves formulating empirical sets of spatial characteristics for each layer of sectoral spatial analysis. Stage 4. These ideal spatial characteristics form the basis of the layered spatial analysis of selected neighborhoods. To refine the results, an additional layer of analysis was conducted based not only on spatial parameters, but also on urban resilience characteristics of the neighborhoods. And I need notion that the principle of sufficiency formed the basis for defining threshold values of spatial characteristic assessed from the standpoint of resilience. Unlike abstract and unattainable ideals, sufficiency represents a realistic standard that aligns with the basic requirements of urban sustainability, safety, and well-being. This approach correlates with the concept of sufficiency scenarios proposed in the field of sustainable urban planning, as well as with the idea of sufficient urbanism, where sustainable development is viewed as a pursuit of balance between needs, environmental capacities, and societal expectation. In this study, the principle of sufficiency was used as a tool for calibrating spatial parameters based on their minimum required level to ensure basic environmental sustainability and resilience. Stage 5. A list of questions was developed to describe each urban resilience attribute, characteristic. This allowed for the assessment of not only the presence, but also the quality of specific spatial features. Layered analysis of urban resilience characteristics was conducted for each studied neighborhoods. For every spatial analysis layer, the way in which current resilience traits of the Ukrainian and German neighborhoods responds or may respond to specific traits was considered. Each response was qualitatively assessed, enabled visualization and interpretation of the results. This stage helps to evaluate and compare the urban resilience of selected neighborhoods to identify key vulnerabilities, both of individual blocks and of typical characteristics inherent to the respective urban typology in Ukraine and Germany. The results from these stages, this and fourth stage, were used to complement and validate each other. And the stage 7, final stage, was focused on developing potential spatial development scenarios and outlining the order of their implementation. The proposed strategies covered various scales: neighborhood level, sub-neighborhood level, residential group and individual buildings, and integration level, incorporation of the neighborhood into broader district and cities context. The proposed methodology enabled an in-depth analysis of spatial characteristics and transformations in large-scale house and estates neighborhoods, helped identify vulnerabilities, assess resilience to various threats, and formulate evidence-based scenarios for future development. The multi-level structure and integration of both quantitative and qualitative approaches make this methodology a universal tool for evaluating and designing sustainable and resilient urban spaces. The results of the spatial analysis were presented in the form of sectoral diagrams and matrices. These show that German neighborhoods are more resilient to external threats, yet their resilience is still insufficient and requires reassessment. There was several types of diagrams, and you can see that in Ukraine we have a lot of problem in every of layers. When we look at spatial analysis, it's in the horizontal on this matrix, and urban resilience characteristics. And this is the diagram show us the results of two types of analysis. Spatial analysis, when I compare with ideal resilient characteristics, and with analysis of urban resilience characteristics, and they were like a layer put on other layer. Okay. Thanks to this comparative analysis of neighboring areas, it was possible to develop a list of key activities aimed at enhancing the resilience of large-scale housing estates. And it was a bit much more bigger, larger a list, but I put here the main key takeaways for Ukrainian neighborhoods from German experience. Optimal size and scale. Reduce residential neighborhood size to about 30 hectares and housing in the frame of 3,000, 7,000 people. This scale supports sustainable resilient infrastructure and social structures, enabling manageable autonomous units. Autonomous micro-district neighborhoods treat neighborhoods as independent, self-sufficient spatial units with clear boundaries and capacities to operate independently during crisis. It's very important to resource spaces through emergencies, allocate appropriately sized resource areas for temporary structures, protective shelters, and autonomous life support systems to enhance resilience. Hierarchical spatial organization. Establish a clear hierarchy of spaces, private, semi-private, public, designed for vacaable access to essential infrastructure such as schools, shops, and transit zones. Incremental, flexible development. Design the neighborhoods to allow phased modernization and adaptation without full-scale reconstruction, critical for post-war contexts with limited resources and changing conditions. Functional mixed-use development. Encourage multifunctionality for integrating workplaces, educational, cultural, and civic facilities within neighborhoods to reduce reliance on external transport and increase social cohesion. Diverse redundant mobility. Develop multiple transport options, public transit, bike lanes, pedestrian paths, with flexible routing to maintain connectivity during emergencies. Green infrastructure and climate adaptation. Expand and interconnect green spaces and corridors to improve microclimate, biodiversity, and climate resilience. Use diverse planting, permeable pavements, stormwater management, and reflective materials to mitigate heat and flooding risks. Energy and water resilience. Promote distributed energy sources, solar panels, for example, local water reserves and water reuse systems to reduce dependency on centralized utilities. Inclusive and accessible design. Ensure buildings and public spaces are accessible to all, including people with disabilities, elderly, and families with features like ramps, elevators, with voice guidance, and barrier-free routes. Safety and community engagement. Integrate safety infrastructure and empower local governance with budgets and authority to manage maintenance, respond to challenges, and promote community initiatives. Adaptable public and social spaces. Create multifunctional, transformable spaces that can serve normal needs and emergency functions, supporting resilience during crisis. Digital infrastructure and maintenance. Use digital monitoring and IoT technologies for infrastructure maintenance and predictive management to increase reliability and rapid response capabilities. And crisis preparedness culture. Foster crisis mindset through scenario planning, evacuation, preparedness, stockpiling, and cooperation between residents and services at the neighborhood level. And this analysis revealed not only the need to improve the spatial resilience characteristic of Ukrainian neighborhoods, but also provided valuable insights into key aspects to focus on in German microdistricts. Here you can see the list. It's not about that there are no these activities in German neighborhoods, but it's important to strengthen this activity because in the face of different crises. I think war crisis also. Incorporate resource elements in urban structure, include alternative transport routes, and sometimes duplicate infrastructure and local supply points to ensure functionality during crisis. Support resident self-organization. German, it's well developed, but it must be strengthful, delegate more authority to local structures, strengthening self-governance at the level of neighborhood, housing company, cooperative level with reverse budgets for rapid emergency response. Adapt building morphology for crisis. Resolve basement spaces for shelters, plan areas for rapid erection of temporary structures, field hospital shelters, marketplaces, and partially repurpose existing buildings without costly reconstruction. Promote diverse architectural forms. Avoid excessive uniformity for favoring a more human scale and library environment within building typologies. And this process, we can see this process. Implement flexible and adaptive mobility. Ensure safety in public spaces, integrate basic safety infrastructure into public transport stops and other spaces, reinforced walls, ventilation, temporary shelter possibilities, plan logistics for system collapse, design evacuation routes, resolve terminals, duplicate operators, resilient connection between districts based on destruction scenarios, not just growth forecast. Support local economy, foster small businesses within housing estates to maintain essential services even amid systemic disruption. Enable mobile medical and humanitarian services. Plan for rapid deployment of mobile medical units and convention of basements and underground parking into shelters or aid distribution point. Build reserves and local self-sufficiency. Create local reserves in banks, warehouse, and independent food supplies to increase neighborhood autonomy for some time. Utilize simple autonomous technologies. Implement some low-tech solution, such as manual pumps, mobile water filter, wood stoves, solar panels, as backup system for basic survival. Encourage horizontal self-organization in crisis, foster local identity formation, combine technical modernization with socio-cultural aspects, recognize symbolic and cultural components as crucial in building resilient communities alongside infrastructure improvements. Develop resilience based on social inertia, leverage stable local practices and habits to maintain resilience during instability and lack of centralized policies. Promote adaptive public green spaces. Encourage resident involvement in mountain green areas, urban gathering, and design public spaces to allow rapid repurposing for emergency logistic, volunteer support, or temporary accommodation. And integrate green spaces with civil defense infrastructure. Ensure quick access to shelters from public green areas, 5 minutes, that's better, and provide modular or transformable spaces for emergency use. The study analyzed neighborhood spatial resilience and how various threats affect this morphological type. The top threats are armed conflict, extreme weather, infrastructure damage, economic challenges, energy disruption, housing aging, biodiversity loss, and poverty. And define these threats supports better future scenarios and strategic decisions to enhance urban resilience amid uncertainty. Ukrainian neighborhoods face war as a main threat, while German districts deal mostly with climate, energy, economic, and social challenges. The diagram compares overall vulnerability of 1980s neighborhoods, gray bars, with current risk level in Ukrainian and German neighborhoods. Despite uncertainties, German experience shows scenario-based planning helps reduce impacts of unexpected threats and improves urban resilience even if responses are delayed. And here is sixth scenario, how we can work with the neighborhoods in the time of crisis or after that. Scenario, the first, involves no major spatial changes and is the most conservative approach for large-scale housing estates. It aims to preserve the existing structure with minimal improvements to maintain current condition and prevent environmental degradation. This scenario is chosen when resources are limited, threats are low, or there is a desire to preserve historical development. It's often a temporary solution during geopolitical, military, social, or economic instability when full reconstruction is impractical. The goal to certain basic resilience and quality of life without altering neighborhood spatial organization. At the building level, repairs are done on engineering system, facades are refreshed with new design, and energy-efficient technologies introduced. At the building group level, everyday living is improved by arranging car, bicycle parking, modernizing playgrounds and sport areas. Country yards and surroundings are regularly cared for. At the micro-district level, public spaces are enhanced with parking near public buildings and areas for community activities like gardens, dog parks, and sport zones. Green spaces are actively maintained, including tree planting in overheating spots due to ongoing risk, micro-social shelters in basements, and small protective above-ground structures should be planned. Scenario 2, the second, involves minor spatial changes aimed at locally improving urban quality without major neighborhood transformation. It focuses on targeted interventions in infrastructure and public spaces to address specific issues and enhance living comfort. This approach suits areas with localized challenges that don't need deep restructuring but require focused measures. It's typically applied under geopolitical, social, and economic threats and supports sustainable development in unstable conditions. At the building level, improvements include in the scenario, the first, installing elevators, ramp, and inclusive entrances. Ground floor may be converted for social, cultural, and commercial use, and solar collectors could be installed to boost energy efficiency. At the building group level, accessibility is enhanced with adaptations for reduced mobility and emergency vehicle access. Shelters and resilience points are created along with backup system for water, heating, internet, and alerts. Stormwater drainage and ground permeability improvements are also implemented. At the micro-discrete level, functional density is increased by ensuring daily use facilities like shops, medical centers, and banks. Existing sociocultural institutions are strengthened with potential expansion of schools and kindergartens. Inclusive access is provided throughout housing and public spaces. Scenario 3 focuses on creating a green or healthy frame around a large-scale housing estate through ecological and spatial rethinking. It aims to implement resilient natural solution, develop infrastructure for active lifestyles, and create new green and recreational spaces, improving quality of life and ecological stability. This scenario emphasizes building a connected green infrastructure that enhances living standards and mitigates external threats. It requires significant investments and governance involvement, but promises long-term sustainable development and ecological safety. Scenario 4 involves creating a new sub-center within a large-scale housing estate to boost territorial self-sufficiency. Under social threats, it acts as a strategic spatial and infrastructure model, establishing a central zone for services, job and cultural activities. This reduces reliance on the city center, strengthens resilience, and meets local needs. Unlike earlier scenarios, it focuses on redistributing functions, creating new spaces and attracting investment. This requires revising zoning, developing transport, social and engineering infrastructure, and rethinking the district urban role in the level of city. It enhances social resilience and integrates the area into multi-level urban security system. Scenario 5.1 and 5.2 involves particular demolition within a residential neighborhood complex to modernize the urban environment's selectivity. Only buildings that are unusable or vacant are removed, with new energy-efficient housing and social infrastructure introduced on freed sites. This preserves the district's appearance and historic structure while minimizing disruption to residents. The approach focuses on careful renewal, integrating new solutions smoothly, and reducing social risks through community dialogue. Planning emphasizes environmental, economic, and social sustainability, improving living conditions without losing local identity. Scenario 5.2, it's more radical urban renewal strategy involving large-scale demolition when existing development is outdated and fails modern standards. Its goal is to create a new district image focused on quality of life, sustainability, and social inclusion. Scenario 5.3 envisions transforming the district into a compact, low-rise but dense block system in response to environmental, social, and technological challenges. It emphasizes a sustainable, inclusive urban environment adaptable to current and future needs. And the last, it's scenario 6, presents the most radical transformation approach applied when a large-scale housing estates is entirely unfit for living due to extreme technological, ecological, or social threats. In such cases, the area is fully cleared, allowing for complete redevelopment based on modern sustainable urban planning principles. This scenario is chosen when other strategies like reconstruction or partial renewal are no longer viable. I have 4 minutes, yeah? Okay. It's a very important part about the place of urban resilience. In my mind, urban resilience, it's not, it's a regime and a part of integrated development when crises happen. And as you can see in the right part, it's a stage how it works. So we live in normal situation, and we want to develop our cities. And in Germany, it's integrated development as a process, and in Ukraine we start these processes to find the best solution for every city, for every urban territory. But when some crisis and there is a war was present, begin, and at that moment, these parts of urban resilience, they start to work independently because it's very hard to start work together. And for after the time, these joints can be found. And for example, a year of war, there are some understanding, there are no duplicating, in between economy, from the side of economy, from the side of governments, actions. But when this crisis is long, like in Ukraine war, we can live in integrated development, but with understanding that it's our new normality. Last, the pathways for implementation in Ukrainian municipal practice. What's next? To translate theoretical conclusion into practical application, clear recommendation need to be developed and that can be integrated into existing municipal plans and projects. This includes the following steps. Development of urban planning strategies based on resilience. This requires using existing data and creating new methods to access the resilience of various types of buildings and urban areas. Implementation of sustainable architecture and infrastructural solution. Construction, reconstruction, and modernization projects should incorporate sustainability principles, from using eco-friendly materials to creating smart infrastructure systems capable of adapting to changes. Public engagement and cooperation with local communities. Creating a resilient urban environment requires collaboration with local residents. Consulting and considering the views of diverse population groups during design helps create harmonious and adapted spaces for them. And education and awareness raising, training specialists in urban planning and municipal governance, as well as raising citizen awareness about resilience and sustainability principles and their role. Understanding their role in city development will help shift the approach to planning and construction towards a more future-oriented direction. It's all. Thank you for your attention.